Hey everybody, welcome to Let's Fix Work. I'm Laurie Brudeman. On today's show, I'm speaking with Cy Wakeman. She's an international keynote speaker, business consultant, New York Times bestselling author, and psychologist who helps organizations and individuals all over the world learn to ditch the drama and turn excuses into results. That's a lot, but I met Cy on the speaking circuit, and I like the way she holds people and companies accountable for performance. We have a fun discussion about the future of work, how to get the best out of people, and whether or not you really need leaders. I'm excited to share this discussion with you. It was a lot of fun. I love Cy Wakeman, so sit tight. We'll be right back with more Let's Fix Work and Cy Wakeman.
Work is broken. So is the way you think about it. Host Laurie Rudiman is breaking things down so you can put them back together and make work something you can enjoy. Let's fix work together. With the Let's Fix Work podcast, here's Laurie.
Hey everybody, it's Laurie Brudeman here, and I am so excited to introduce you to just an amazing guest. Oh, I'm so pleased to have her. My guest this week is Cy Wakeman. Cy, how you doing?
I am great. So glad to be your guest this week.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm a bit of a fangirl, as are many of my friends and colleagues in the world of human resources. And you and I have crossed paths over the years, but we've never officially met. You spoke at Work Human. You've been at SHRM. You're just on the circuit. And so before we get started talking about whether or not work is broken, why don't you give us like an elevator pitch as to who you are and what you do?
Well, I'm a drama researcher, so I actually study how much time people spend in drama and emotional waste at work and provide strategies on what they could do with all that energy instead.
So who buys your services? Is it individuals or is it leaders?
All of the above. So I work with a lot of human resources and learning and development folks who realize that what they're teaching, the traditional leadership methods aren't working. And individuals, we actually have a whole strategy to give everything we do away for free to the individual on YouTube, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, so that individuals can consume us for free. And then usually they love our stuff and it works, so they bug their leaders to bring us in to the organization. We think that's great marketing when your employees want us in because it works for them. So we don't have to wait for the top to adopt this. We just make it happen.
That's amazing. Well, you know, what workplace doesn't have drama, which is why you're on the show today, because I have a core philosophy that work is broken and it needs to be fixed. And I wonder if you agree or you disagree, or if you see it as a nuanced state of being. What do you think?
You know, I don't disagree with the facts that on the macro, work seems broken. I think when we look towards the solutions, we need to realize that work is just work. Work is our reality, and reality is never the reasons we can't succeed. It's just the reality in which we must succeed. So I would say that work, just as work, it's not necessarily broken, but our leadership philosophies, our HR approaches, our current thinking about work is definitely broken.
Well, it's funny you mention leaders, because leadership books and leadership training and leadership speakers are ubiquitous. They're all over, right? Everybody's got a book. Everybody's doing a speaking circuit right now. So there are so many people who dole out leadership advice. And I wonder what makes this kind of information much more natural to give than to receive?
Well, for me, I don't know if it is natural to receive, because being a researcher and coming from a science evidence-based background as a social worker and as a therapist, for me, much of what's given from the platform is not evidence-based. And so it's actually almost it's difficult for me to sit in the audience where there's a lot of kind of feel-good psychology, pop psychology, not positive because that's good stuff, but pop psychology being given as advice from people who have not done the work,
right?
Which we have, and from people that aren't looking to the evidence or to the research. And so what they're providing is anecdote, judgment, and many ego-filtered looks. And the reason it's easy to give is most leadership advice is about colluding with you and judging those people who are bad at leadership. And we don't we don't do that. We all have a human condition. It's all about evolving beyond your human condition and managing that human condition of ego. And it's not just leaders, it's everybody. And, there's so much out there right now that's just plain, it's dangerous. I heard the other day someone give a whole keynote on bring your whole self to work. If you're having a grumpy day, then we all love you and we need to understand, that you have feelings. And I am completely on the other side of that.
I'm with you. And I want to stop you on that because we at Let's Fix Work talk about this all the time, that if you bring your whole self to work, you may be a jerk or a moron or insensitive to other people and step on other people's lives. So does this tie into some of your messaging around drama and leadership? Because I would imagine if you bring your whole self to work, you're bringing all your drama and all your bad stuff to the office as well.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you jumped on that. I say do not bring your whole self to work. Bring your most evolved self to work. And by the way, don't bring your whole self home. Don't bring it to the neighbors. Don't bring it anywhere, because when people want to bring their whole selves to work, they're using it as just this justification for how I can bring my low self to work, and you must accept it if you accept me. And I'm all about calling people to greatness. And you have a responsibility not to bring your whole self to work, to bring your most evolved self to work. And most of what people are upset about or venting about is the ego's version of the world, which isn't accurate anyway.
Yeah,
so most of what they're upset about didn't even happen. And so we need them to do a better job of relating to reality and filtering their own view of reality, a much cleaner version, process their own work, process their own stuff, and then come to work fit for duty, mentally fit for duty. A lot of people only think fit for duty means to have my safety shoes on, my safety glasses, and can I lift 50 pounds? I'm talking fit for duty that you've done your work.
It's so interesting that you say that, because leadership today seems so much about being a therapist, right? It's about motivating people to bring their healthy adult to work, right? That's what leadership is all about. But if you ask someone like my dad what leadership was all about, it was like, meet the numbers, get your work done, and you get a paycheck. So shut up about it. And I just wonder, leadership has been evolving over the past 50 years, but leadership today in 2018 is different than it was even in 2008 when I left corporate America. So I wonder how you see leadership evolving throughout the years, and is it evolving for the better?
We know that some leadership is evolving for the better because our business has grown astronomically, and we have a lot of people that now get reality-based leadership and no ego, and they're changing their systems. But leadership in general has not evolved for the better. We have over-rotated to engagement in these 10 years. So in the vendor halls, everything is engagement, and people don't understand engagement. They think engagement is me orchestrating your happiness, is me as an organization creating an environment where you with little effort just can plug and play. And we know from our research that engagement without accountability creates entitlement. And so right now, most of the companies that I'm hearing from are really struggling with this entitlement that they've created, but they've over-rotated on engagement. And engagement, I can't manufacture for you. Engagement's a choice. In fact, the first time I became a leader, and they said, you're responsible for the engagement of others. I still was practicing as a therapist, and I said, you mean like workplace happiness plus like their discretionary effort and intent to say like, I'm responsible for that? Why isn't that their responsibility? And I said, as a therapist, we know that you can't make another person happy. I've spent 9 years teaching people that you're not responsible for somebody else's happiness. And we have a word for it. We have a diagnosis. It's called codependency.
Right.
And so many leadership practices are really based on enabling others and bending reality, corrupting people's data. People need a clear view of the world, and they get their data corrupted with their own thinking, their ego filter, and then all of you enabling and keeping them from really just understanding natural consequences. I don't want to go back to your dad's time where it was just like, suck it up, buttercup. But if I had my choice between entitlement and then, I would pick then. And here's why. Because the right people got so mad they quit. the same behavior can't please a high accountable and a low accountable. And there are some days where it simply is because we promised the client, suck it up, make it happen. Now, high accountables will get that. Low accountables will be angered by that. In engagement, we're working so hard to make the low accountables not quit that the high accountables are at an all-time, past, they're at all-time high for creating their own businesses. So we're losing the people most capable of hustle, like you and me, left.
Totally.
Because everybody is so focused on how can we please the low accountables, and they don't realize the truth, which is the same behavior will not please a high accountable and a low accountable at the same time. You'll always have somebody mad, make the right people mad.
So is it all right to stop measuring employee engagement? Is that a stupid number to measure?
Hey, it's Libby DeLucian. If you're sick of business advice that sounds cute, but doesn't actually move the needle forward, this one's for you. The Libby DeLucian podcast is where we go one layer deep. No gurus, no glitter, just straight up unfiltered talk about scaling a business, running a household, and holding on to your sanity in the middle of the chaos. If you're the bottleneck in your business or in your own life, I'll show you how to fix it. Simple, tactical, and one layer deep every time. Let's go. Visit libbyd.com and check out our podcast today.
I believe if you're going to do it the way you're doing it now, your data is so corrupt, just stop measuring it.
Yeah.
Now, what I like to do is I do like to measure engagement, more pulse survey, and even better, just conversation with my high accountables. The only people I care about their engagement is the high accountables. So we actually have an engagement survey where we ask typical engagement questions, and then we ask accountability questions, things we know measure person's accountability. And then we filter the data on engagement through the accountability questions so that you can turn down the volume on your low accountables and turn up the volume on your high accountables and fix the corruption in your data, because everybody's vote shouldn't count the same.
Yeah,
so for instance, if a low accountable says, I don't trust senior leaders, do we care? If a high accountable says, I don't trust senior leaders, I care. And the reason for this is there's two sorting processes. If a low accountable, first of all, if a high accountable hurts in any way, they self-reflect, they see what their part in it is, they adjust, they look to learn, they look to grow, and what's left, they then go to the organization and say, hey, here's a piece, I've sorted my stuff out of it, here's a piece that's pretty pure, if you would get us a printer on 6 Southwest, we could have better productivity. The low accountable hurts and hands everything to the organization and says, I hurt, what do you got for this? Their sorting mechanism is broken because they believe everything from a victim mindset, everything's the responsibility of the organization. And so engagement, if you're going to just measure and you're going to have every vote counts the same, then yeah, quit measuring it. Your data is absolutely corrupt and you'll spend a ton of money fixing the wrong stuff. But we fix the measurement, and then the best way to solve this is only have high accountables in your organization so that everybody's opinion should count again.
Well, that's great, right? To have only high accountables in your organization. But unfortunately, we live in a world where people need to work. And so I wonder, is there any way to rescue people or to educate people or to pull them from being low accountable and victims to being highly accountable and owning their own employee experience? Is that possible?
I worked as a therapist. I've seen a lot of spiritual awakenings. I believe it's totally possible. People have gone through alcohol treatment. They've gone through, you can take a mid-accountable with great leadership and move them up. But here's what I would tell you is I don't have to solve the whole problem of people working in this world. I just have to solve the problem of being the best place for high accountables to work. And so a lot of people are like, well, we have this shortage on talent. And I'm like, no, we have a shortage for great places for high accountables to work. If you and I are being chased by a tiger, I don't have to beat the tiger. I just have to beat you. And what happens, though, is that as you create places where high accountables can come amplify high accountables without the drag of people that are low in accountability, is you break the curve and you show people what's possible. And I work with a lot of folks that it's not about what they come in with, because a lot of people need to work. It's about willingness. So you can come in underskilled. That doesn't mean that you're low in accountability.
Yeah, of course.
It doesn't mean you're low in willingness. And so I believe in giving as many opportunities to as many people as I can. We do tons of internships. I do a lot of micro lending.
But I hear you. You can't save everybody. I hear you.
Not at all. Well, you
Absolutely.
can't save those who don't want to be saved. And you go first. Buy-in is a verb. I can't buy you in.
Yeah, and I also think there are people out there who are allergic to what's happening in low, like really cruddy, low value jobs out there, and they would rather not work at all, or rather take a job and just take the paycheck than buy in and really try anymore. I see a lot of learned helplessness, and I think learned helplessness goes both ways. Workers are burnt out on some of the garbage that's been happening in the workforce. There's been a dampening of wages. There's tons of harassment still happening within corporate America. People are disengaged because they've been told your voice doesn't matter, whether you're a high performer or a low performer. So I see individuals who are like, you know what, I'm just going to show up at work, because why even try if all I'm going to do is fail? They look to the past to predict the future. And in some ways, I think, all right, you can't fix those individuals, but I would love to give them an employee experience that blows their mind and gives them a chance to try. And I think those employee experiences are few and far between in our economy.
I think so. And a couple of comments on that. The person who shows up and decides why even try, needs to understand why even try for their own happiness, because they've got their motive to do, I'll do this as long as the organization does something for me. But there's a bigger evolution there that, the Buddhists talk about, if you're washing dishes, then wash dishes happily and wholeheartedly, because it's not about the dishes, it's about your evolution.
Yeah,
so
right.
If people are, Gallup says that people quit their jobs because of their bosses. I'm like, people quit their jobs and blame their bosses, right?
Yeah.
I walked beans. I've castrated hogs. I've done a lot of crappy jobs where nobody cared crap about me. And I made up my mind to be happy anyway and use that money to better myself. I do think we employers have a responsibility to, those of us that believe this stuff, to quit messing around, employ high accountables, reward high accountables, be socially good citizens, protect our planet, build in the cost of our carbon footprint, make sure that we have workplaces where, it's very clear that people are respected, and throw some tremendous profits so we can debunk this baloney of all the excuses people make that I've got to harm the environment and harm people to make a profit. That's not a profit. That profit is supported and subsidized. And so we need to show people what pure profit looks like. And pure profit is what you're left over after you have paid all the costs of doing business. And if you're going to have a harassing environment, then you need to figure in millions and millions and millions of dollars in your legal funds, because we're finally going to hold you accountable to pay the costs of that style of leadership. And so there are businesses right now that are in jeopardy because some of the subsidies are no longer in place. And I'm like, awesome, that's called a natural consequence when you're parenting. Let's everybody quit being protected from your natural consequences so that we can break the curve and show people what truly successful business looks like.
And that's true capitalism, by the way. I mean, you survive or you don't based on your abilities to thrive in the marketplace. And if you're being subsidized for poor behavior, that's got to go. I love it, Cy. I love all of this. So in the second half of the show, we're going to talk about what makes a great place to work. We're going to dive into a little bit more of that. We're going to dive into the future of work. But as we leave this segment, I have one quick question for you. And I know it's going to be hard to answer, but what leadership advice do you regret ignoring in your career?
And I love that question. The leadership advice I regret ignoring in my career was, for the longest time, I had somebody say, you know what, Cy, you can leave here, but you're going to make exactly what you're worth. And I had kind of a boss who's like threatened I was going to leave. And for the longest time, he'd go, yeah, go be a consultant, because then instead of me paying you regardless of what you do, you'll earn exactly what you're worth. And I'll never forget when I got the courage up to go be a consultant and I earned 3 times my salary in the first year. I regretted ignoring that advice out of fear. I'm like, why wouldn't I bet on me? So that may not be the traditional leadership advice, but that's what comes to mind.
You know what? I'd bet on you any day, Cy. When we come back, we're going to talk about the future of work and what makes a great place to work. Everybody sit tight. There will be more Let's Fix Work right after the break. You know I love to brag about my friends. I also like to listen to them. And right now, I'm listening to Jennifer McClure, host of the Impact Makers podcast. Jennifer is connecting with leaders across all industries to figure out how to make a difference at work and in the world. Here's what she's got going on.
I believe strongly that each of us has the ability and the opportunity to positively impact people through our work and through how we choose to live our lives. The truth is that you've already impacted people in this world, even if you haven't been trying.
I love what Jennifer has to say. And if you like what you're hearing right here on Let's Fix Work, you'll love what Jennifer's talking about on Impact Makers. So go to jennifermcclure.net/iTunes and subscribe today. Hey, everybody. Welcome back. It's Laurie Rudiman, and I'm here today with Cy Wakeman. Cy, how you doing? Did you enjoy the first half?
I did. You get me talking about social conscious capitalism, and I'm gone. I love it.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Well, I love that you love talking about love, because I have heard this message from you over the past couple of months about love. And I think a lot of people hear love and work and they think, what has love got to do with it? But you really preach the idea of love within your community. You have a thriving community online. And I wonder if you can quickly tell us, because community is very trendy right now, how did it start and, where's it headed? And also, all of that is interesting, but what's the hallmark of a healthy community? Because so many of us don't belong to healthy communities.
Absolutely. For us, I think my community started with my willingness to say yes, and just my own lifestyle where I'm approachable. If I'm, at a conference where I'm going to speak, you'll find me before it starts in the audience talking to people, and just wanting so passionately for people to know that suffering is completely optional and that we can help with them. We got
wait. Say that again. Suffering is optional.
It's completely optional, and we can help with that, right? So most suffering is self-imposed. And how we've gotten started recently is listening to my next generation and how they consume. And so many speakers were out there, doing newsletters and trying to push information out. And my millennials and next gen came to me, and they just said that the way they were consuming was online with good engagement. And they loved people like Gary Vaynerchuk, who really interacted. He had a huge social presence. He was totally accessible 24/7. And so we started to really make the social media strategy our biggest strategy. We want our message consumed in bite-sized pieces in the way that you want to consume them. So instead of people saying, I don't want my people distracted at work with their phones, we started saying, we want to be the distraction at work on your phone.
Very smart, very smart.
So we have huge channels. People binge watch us all the time on YouTube, and, we're very prolific on LinkedIn and Instagram. We have a Facebook watch show called Life's Messy, Live Happy. I've got my own podcast, No Ego. But it's not just putting it out there, it is engagement and interaction. And so I and my staff spend hours answering questions, trying to talk to folks, and being grateful, because they're the ones who teach me where to go next with my message, because they teach me what works and what doesn't work.
There's so many people out there who assume that social media and the digital web skews to millennials and the next generation, but I think there's a missed opportunity for leaders. So often leaders are snobby and they're distant and they're a little elitist and they don't want to be online. And then they find themselves at the age of 55 or 60 wondering what they're going to do for an encore career. So can you talk about the importance of leaders being online? What are they missing if they're not online?
This is William Tincup, and I'd like to direct you to a wonderful limited series podcast that Ryan and I recorded live at the ERE Recruiting Innovation Summit. We sat down with 20 recruiting and TA leaders from around the world to hear what today's best recruiters are doing to stay sharp, stay relevant, and stay ahead. It's called The Talent Shift. You'll love it. You'll find the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Listen, like, review, share. Do you?
Well, first of all, let's talk about why they're not online. They can give me the ego excuse that, texting's ruining our communication, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line, those people aren't online because they haven't kept up with the times, they aren't evolving, and they can't keyboard.
Wait, they can't keyboard. That is so hilarious and true. They can't.
They can't. And so people are always they're saying to me, Cy, well, I prefer to keep my privacy. I'm like, no, you haven't evolved because people aren't out there to get into your privacy. They're out there to be led in the way that they consume. I sat in an HR group and they were, I was going to speak, but they were doing some work first. And they were all putting together a policy on people being able to use Twitter and Facebook, all this protectionistic control.
Wait, recently? This happened recently?
Within the last year.
Oh, my God.
And so I said to them, before, I start, I was enjoying the conversation about Twitter, and I just wanted to know, of the 12 of you, how many are on Twitter?
I know.
The people regulating.
None.
There's two of the 12.
Oh, that's amazing.
I checked their Twitter account. They have one. They are not on Twitter. And so for me, I just think, for me as a leader, if I'm going to stay relevant, I have to look at where technology goes and then where the younger people adopt. And I can't be the final adopter. If technology goes there and my young people adopt it, that needs to be played out in my next strategy, because there are even people go, well, older people aren't online. Yeah, they are, but we just know where our markets are. That's why we have Facebook Watch Show, not for our younger folks, but female leaders between the ages of 45 and 60 are my main audience on that Facebook Watch Show. But what people are doing is retiring early. The business conversation moved online to social media. So you asked what made a healthy community.
Yeah, I did. I'm fascinated by all of this because I think the next evolution of leaders getting online is that leaders can actually have an honest conversation about the future of work. Because when I hear leaders talking about the future of work, it's all this really trite crap like automation, blockchain, robotics. And I think, yeah, right. And I think the future of work is so much more than that. But I wonder what your opinion is on the future of work.
I think that my hope, because I have a vision for the future of work, I don't think it's going to happen to us. I think we need to influence and create. The future of work to me is going to be a place where we go beyond ego, beyond title, beyond hierarchy, beyond a promised salary for the rest of your lifetime or even the rest of the year. I'm hoping that there are just amazing foundational places out there online where people can plug and play for as long as they want and as long as they add value and find some payback for the value that they add. And so that means everything changes. Compensation changes.
Everything has to change, including our basic notion of how we get paid for work, because there are different forms of labor, right? There's labor in the home, there's emotional labor. And right now we just pay people to show up, and we have a stratified economic system where some people are contractors, some people are freelancers, some people are full-time, and nothing is fair about it at this point.
It will always favor privilege. Our current system of compensation, I don't care how often you want to fix that thing, it will always favor privilege.
So a lot of people, and including a few of my previous guests, have really been advocates for basic income to make sure that everybody has an opportunity. Do you feel the same way?
Not to reveal my whole political preferences, but I am all about galaxy citizenship and the fact that we can provide for everyone's basic needs, including healthcare, including education, all of those places. But a lot of it starts with education, not the kind we're teaching in schools right now. But what I love about and I'm excited about the opening up of the internet is I'm having conversations with people all over the world. I've been invited to talk to India and Egypt and all kinds of places because I'm hoping it will be the great equalizer. And just like my boss said that one day, you'll make exactly what you're worth. And if you haven't kept up your skills for 20 years, you're going to find yourself natural incentive to stop being a leader who says, I don't get online because I don't want my privacy invaded, and drop the excuses and jump in the game. And I'm so excited about solving our problems through crowdsourcing and engagement and dialogue. It amazes me. Somebody said to me the other day at an AI conference, they're like, well, it's ridiculous to think that robots can take over all of our work. And I'm like, well, you missed the point of the partnership that we would use. We would be able to really standardize and give work. But the robots should be taking over our work, because if you have a radiologist do an overread on your image, okay, that is fraught with error. If you have a robot do a overread on your image. And so when somebody said they didn't want robots taking over their job, therapists, they put a robot who asked 4 basic questions in India to do therapy, and the people recovered at a greater rate than the person did, because our flaw is we see life through the lens of an ego, and robots don't. And I'm like all excited about being replaced by a robot and laying on the beach someplace.
I was just thinking that, like, between basic income and being replaced by a robot, I'm going to have a great life. I'm going to pursue art and poetry, and I'm going to read more books. I'm going to write more books. I think the future of work looks a little bit different. And why would we want someone toiling away in a basement of a Chinese manufacturing company?
Makes no sense.
Person, could be out there. They could be hiking. They could be creating art and beauty. So I'm with you. I don't know about the galaxy citizenship. I need to look that up.
But even robots, though, we're going to have to treat them better than we treat some people, because people hide their breakdowns from us, but robots won't.
Until they're programmed to hide their breakdowns.
Well, that's true. That's true.
Right. Well, listen, I have a final question for this segment, and I'm paraphrasing here, but my idol, Václav Havel, once said that systems aren't the problem, people are the problem. And if you fix the human heart, you'll fix the system. And so I wonder, as we're talking about AI and the future of work, does the future of work have a place for love and heart-centered leadership?
That's, I think, what we're created to do. And for me, every person in the same person has low self and high self. And high self is when you're beyond ego. And so love is your natural state. And so for me, it's not necessarily like fixing all of us, that the people, they are the problem, but it's not that we need to fix the people. We need to just toggle switch the people out of ego into self-reflection. Because I believe that everything we desire is our natural state once the drama's gone. Heart and love. And so when you're not in ego, you're an amazing person. And the way I explain this to folks is like when Michelangelo was asked after he carved David, if the carving of David was difficult because the product is beautiful.
Yes.
And he said, no, it was really effortless. It was easy. I just took out of the marble anything that wasn't David. And so I don't think we have to change people or add things to people or teach them or, I think what we need to do, which has been preached about in every spirituality for thousands of years, we have to remove everything which isn't that loving self. And what you have left, what people's natural state is happiness, success, collaboration, love, heart-centeredness. That's who we are when we're not in the ego. And so the first step in that for listeners is stop believing everything you think, because your ego is thinking you and giving you corrupted data, and you're making not heart-centered choices based on this corrupted view of the world. And so I think it absolutely is the future. And I think that that it's easier than we think.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, man, that sounds wonderful. And I feel like I've just had a therapy session. Cy, thank you so much for really turning a cynic like me into a temporary optimist about the future of work. I love it. I'm normally so negative. And now I'm like, yeah, man, it might not be so bad.
We need you. I love your work. So I need you to keep disrupting out there. But we also need to settle the mind. If all we do is disrupt, we'll leave people in ego and fearful. So we got to disrupt, and then we have to settle the mind to say, here's a way you might try.
Well, I am working on settling my mind, and I think my listeners are too. Listen, Cy, I want everybody to find you and find your good work. Where can they find you on the internet?
We make it easy at Cy Wakeman, anywhere on the internet.
Oh, that is easy. And it's an easy name to spell. Thank you again, Cy, for being such a fabulous guest. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Hey, are you ready to podcast like a pro? Then you need a secret weapon, someone who can make it easy, where all you have to do is show up and be the host. At One Stone Creative, that's what we do. Everything. Yeah, everything. Imagine, every time you sit down to record, you know what your topic is. You want a script? We can do that too. Then you record it, drop it in a folder, and that's it. Our team will take it from there. Production, show notes, uploads, blog posts, social media assets, swipe copy, like I said. Everything. Book a call with the podcast strategist today. Just go to onestonecreative.net/podcast. That's onestonecreative.net/podcast. And we'll take it from there.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. Hope you enjoyed my conversation with Cy Wakeman. There's a ton of information in the show notes, including a link to Cy's Facebook Watch TV show. It's called Life's Happy, Live Messy. As a side note, my husband and I just saw a commercial for the Facebook Watch platform, and he's like, "Hey, Laure, do we really need another smartwatch on the market?" And that was hilarious, but I'm not going to lie, I hadn't heard of Facebook Watch either. TV on the internet beyond Netflix is really foreign to me. Let's Fix Work is a production of One Stone Creative. Audra Casino, Megan Doherty, and Gersonde Leflèche make the show great. Hear me anytime, any place, anywhere if you subscribe on your favorite podcast player. And connect with me at L. Rudiman or Let's Fix Work if you have feedback on the show. Now that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time on Let's Fix Work.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Let's Fix Work. Wouldn't you love to get your hands on Laurie's no-holds-barred, honest HR handbook for employees and pros alike? Download it for free at laurierudiman.com/DIYHR.